listen. All right, Field. So I got a new night job, right? It's at the city morgue, and let me tell you, it is dead quiet there. Pun intended. I mean, we could really like start to work on other stuff, start to like make another revenue source for Forgotten Cinema. You know what I'm thinking?
We can record there.
Pimps.
We're talking about Night Shift.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to Forgotten Cinema. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy Forgotten Cinema, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and YouTube. We're available on all platforms with a backlog of over 250 and counting episodes for your listening pleasure. What's up?
Nothing. You know, I told you I got a night job at a morgue. And there's a new guy that started working. He ruined my peace and quiet, but you know it's fine. He's kind of annoying. It's not that fine. But Billy Blaze, whatever. Billy Blaze. But you know we came up with a good idea. A hooker actually just moved in across from me, and I was like, oh well, she's getting beat up because her pimp got whacked, and so she's got no protection, and neither do any of her other fellow ladies of the night. So. We've decided to turn the morgue kind of into our house of ill repute and start a business protecting these ladies, making sure they're taken care of, and making a little money off the side. But we only take 10%, like an agent or manager. We're the good pimps.
That's what I hear. We must be in the 80s because we are talking about the 1982 film Night Shift. This is actually a film that broke out 2 stars. One, Ron Howard as director. This was his first studio directed film. And the other was Michael Keaton, one of his first starring roles. And obviously, you do know that they are very successful now. So, obviously, did that proof. Anyways, let's get into the facts and everything else. Yeah, great job.
Just like we always do.
Woo, Night Shift. Run time of 106 minutes. Rated R. Production budget of $8.1 million. Release date was Friday, July 30th, 1982. Opening weekend, it did $2.5 million. Domestic and worldwide are the same because this didn't have an international release, did $21.1 million. Production company was the Ladd Company, and it was distributed by Warner Brothers. So I said it came out on the 30th of July, 1982. Let's go back a week to the 23rd, and a wide release of the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Hey, did you see that?
No, I just think it's ironic that they both deal with,
Whoopi Goldberg, geez. Dolly Parton, Burt Reynolds.
I know of it. I've never seen it, but I know of it.
The movie Six Pack, which is, I watched the trailer show of this. The Six Pack is with Kenny Rogers.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's like a down and out race car driver who is no longer on the main NASCAR circuit. He's on whatever, the dirt circuit. I don't know. And these 6 kids become his pit crew, and it's really just all right. I think Diane Lane is in it too. He also had a limited release of The World According to Garp that week, which is the Robin Williams film. Zapped. Do you remember Zapped, where the kid creates he gets what is it? He gets superpower. Yeah, no, he can levitate things.
No idea.
And then a movie called The Challenge, which I watched, but I totally forgot what it was about. The week that this movie came out, the 30th, Night Shift, it had no other wide releases, but it went up against in a limited release, An Officer and Gentleman, Forced Vengeance, which is a Chuck Norris film, and Tex, which Tex is, what is Tex? I watched all these. Why do I not remember Tex?
Tex is either also a Chuck Norris film or a film about a dog.
No, I think Tex is either... Or maybe Tex is Chuck Norris and Forced Vengeance was the Scott Glenn film. One or the other. There was a Scott Glenn film in here somewhere. The week after, August 6th, 1982, you had a wide release of Things Are Tough All Over and The Pirate Movie, which is a musical, and the trailer looked awful.
We're going to have to watch that.
And you had a limited release of the film that I sent you, the trailer, The Last American Virgin.
You sent me that trailer. I had never heard of this movie. As the trailer is going, I'm like, this is either AI or it is somebody's film that they're doing now, like an indie film, to try to make it look like an 80s film. Because like this looks like such a cliche of what an 80s film would be. I was like, oh my
I
God.
mean, from the title, you can probably figure out what it's about. But like, I gotta tell you, I kind of want to watch it.
Yeah,
I don't want to see this thing.
but like because like no one in the trailer was like a star or celebrity, that I was just like, these people are fake. These people are either fake or they're like indie actors now.
Oh, yeah. It looks awesomely raunchy, an 80s style raunchy. Yeah, I need to. So that's the Last American Virgin. Anyways, and I have this in here because I don't know. I don't know why I put this in here. Maybe because I thought it was a big movie that was coming out. Was the week after that, which is the 13th, it would a wide release of Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3 days. So that was probably a big film back then. All right, so this film, as I said, was directed by Ron Howard, who has won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. He's also done Splash, Cocoon, and Gung Ho. I went a little old school Ron Howard here for you.
Put a little Michael Keaton in there too. I like it better.
Written by Lowell Gans and Babaloo Mandel, who are writing partners. They've done. They were nominated for an Oscar for Splash. I didn't realize they got nominated.
I was surprised when I said
They were a League of Their Own and Parenthood, but older fans will probably remember that these are basically the writers and creators of Happy Days. So you have the Happy Days connection here, obviously, with Ron Howard, because when they're doing this movie, Ron Howard is no longer on Happy Days. He left like after season 7, I believe.
something like that.
But Henry Winkler, who's the lead in this, is still playing the Fonz during this time. He's still on the show.
I always forget how long Happy Days lasted and how far removed it is from the time period it takes place.
Like 84 went into, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Ron Howard's also still doing the Happy Days animated show that was happening at the same time.
Yes. Both
Both of them, yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. Cinematographer was James Crabb, who's he's done The Formula, Rocky, and The Karate Kid, the original. Original music by, we don't have it's not a score, it's a music by Burt Bacharach. A lot of older people remember Burt Bacharach, who is awesome. He's won 2 Oscars, nominated for 5, has won 2. He won for Arthur and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He actually won 2 Oscars for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid for music and score or something like that. Yeah, so 3 Oscars.
You don't like when his song plays in Butch?
I like that song.
Separately, he's removed.
I don't like it in the movie. So I'm one big gripe with that film. It just feels kind of like, but that's the time period. So it's I understand why it's there. He was also nominated for the 1968 Casino Royale. He also did Alfie, the 67 Alfie, and What's New Pussycat. I'm not going to sing a song for you, but that's where you know which one. Edited by Daniel P. Hanley, Mike Hill, and Robert James Kern. Hanley has done, he was nominated for an Oscar for Cinderella Man, Frost Nixon, A Beautiful Mind. He also won for Apollo 13. Him and Mike Hill are editing buddies, so they have the same credits, and obviously they're that Ron Howard connection. Kern was in the TV show Laverne and Shirley and The Odd Couple, so he obviously, an older editor, came in to help them out. Produced by Brian Grazer. This is actually the first film that Brian Grazer and Ron Howard worked on as well. So this is where their relationship begins. Obviously, he is part of Imagine, and he's produced basically every Ron Howard film since this time.
Yep.
So he's got the same kind of credits. He won an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind because that won Best Picture. And he was nominated for Apollo 13, which is an awesome film, and Frost Nixon, and Splash, which again was nominated for Best Picture. I did not know that.
Best Picture?
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't seen Splash since I was a little kid.
We've talked about it on the show.
But I know you say it's like problematic, but like I remember liking it when I was a kid.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but like I can see somebody now who's in their 20s be like, why did you like this film? What's wrong with you? And I'll be like, it's Splash. Oh, thanks. Sure. Anyways, this film has Henry Winkler as the lead. He plays Chuck Lumley. What a sad sack of a name. Obviously, it said it was Happy Days. He's also in Barry, the TV show, and The Waterboy. Gatorade is better. Like Keaton as Bill Blazkowski or Billy Blaze or Bill Blaze. Nominated for an Oscar for Birdman. He's also in Batman, Batman Returns, and Spotlight. Shelley Long as Belinda Keaton. TV show Cheers. She plays the prostitute that Butler was talking about. True Beverly Hills and The Money Pit. Gina Hecht as Charlotte Kugel, excuse me. She is the fiance of Chuck Lumley, Henry Winkler's character. She's in the TV show Dave and Mork and Mindy. And Bobby DeCicco as Leonard Carbone. He's the nephew or cousin of Chuck's boss, and then he gets the day show, the night shift. DeCicco's in 1941 and the Philadelphia Experiment, and that's pretty much. I mean, there's other people in there. Richard Belzer's in there as Pig. He's one of the thugs.
Ron Howard's brother's in there.
He's always in there.
And Badger Zola started him getting thrown in things. Yeah.
There, Pat Corley, who he plays the father of Charlotte, and if he looks familiar, if you watch a lot of TV, he was the bartender in the Murphy Brown show. I don't know if you ever saw Murphy Brown.
A few episodes.
And then Charles Fleischer as the prisoner. Now, do you know what I'm talking about? When they're in the prison and he's like, "Do you want to die?"
Oh, you want to die?
Do you know what his credit is?
No.
He's the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Really?
Yes, that's awesome. So yeah, he's a voice actor and a lot of other things, but his biggest one is, or the one that you would know, I knew, is Roger Rabbit.
Please, Eddie.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, this film launched two careers, Keaton and Ron Howard. There's a couple cameos in there. We'll get to them. But I had never seen this film. I think you knew that, right?
No, I didn't know that. I have no. Okay.
So I wanted to see this film because I knew of it. I knew it was Ron Howard, knew it was early 80s. It was like, I had really no idea what it was about. I just knew it was guys that worked the night shift in the morgue. And I when you look at the poster, you're like, well, obviously it's some kind of 80s comedy.
Right.
So I honestly didn't even know Keaton was in it until I started taking the notes. I was like, oh, he's in this. So I have no relationship to this film.
That very rarely ever happens where neither of us have seen the films.
Well, it's kind of
That's
I
awesome.
missed it because I wanted to watch something. I wanted to watch it, so I was going to watch it.
That's awesome.
All right, but anyways, what'd you think?
It's very 80s. It's like it is super early 80s. I don't think it's necessarily the funniest film. There were a couple parts where I was like, that's not bad. I don't think it's. I'm gonna say it's not my kind of comedy. I don't think I grew up on raunchy comedies like you did. With like,
whoa,
not like a perv, but like all that stuff kind of came out around that time.
Right.
So I've seen other stuff, and I mean, this is early, so I'm sure, this could be a case of just, again, me having seen stuff out of order and like, oh, this is so early on, though. It clearly made a lot of money for like a debut film from Ron Howard. Oh, yeah. Michael Keaton being a nobody at the time. But I really enjoyed 1980s and like late 70s movies where you see that Times Square looks kind of the same as what you like, because we live close to the city. So I've gone many a times. I went to school in New York, but like you go to Times Square now and it's like a tourist destination. But then like you look at these older things and it's like just hookers everywhere and just liquor stores and just lottery shops and pawn shops and just it's so grimy and dirty, and it's like the same place but different. It's like Back to the Future 2 when he goes and biffs the mayor. It's like it's so bizarre to see. That's probably my favorite part of watching these kind of movies. But there were some good things. It was interesting seeing Henry Winkler young and not cool, which I know he was given the choice of Blaze or Chuck, and he chose Chuck because he wanted to be a different kind of character.
He wanted to play the Richie Cunningham role.
Yeah, that's what he says. And I think he does, well, obviously he always does a really good job. But I think it was really interesting to see young Fonz getting beat up on and being the nervous guy. I thought was really interesting. It was also interesting to see young Keaton being kind of second fiddle, because I'm used to seeing him as the lead in almost everything.
But he's still, like, you can still see the Michael Keaton from Gung Ho and Mr. Mom.
Oh, absolutely. His comedy chop, comedy Michael Keaton's there.
Yeah, so you can still kind of see that. And then when you realize it's his first film, you're like, oh, geez, they must have just flipped out. Because he goes off to, I think he does like all those films right after. Like he has a stretch. And I think we
very soon after, yeah.
In the Mr. Mom episode where he has a stretch of films where it's just
Gung Ho,
now Mr. Mom.
One of the other ones was
Dream Team,
yeah.
And then he started doing like Clean and Sober. He started doing the older, not the older stuff, the drama stuff. But still, like he was just, he just went off. He just shot off into space. And yeah, obviously Ron Howard as well. He goes off and does, like, I listed the movies and I didn't list Parenthood and stuff like that. Like he just, Ron Howard, he still is a major director. Anyways, there's only a couple times I laughed out loud.
Okay, so kind of the same. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because I've lived with the other films longer than I have with this film, so and plus 82, so I'm 7, so I wouldn't have.
You would have watched this till later anyway.
And it's one of those movies that we've talked about now, or movies that we're talking about how they don't have, long shelf life, and you don't see them on TNT anymore. You don't see them on TV. Like I never would see Night Shift anywhere.
I'm surprised about that, given the people that made it and who stars in it.
You always see and hear about Bachelor Party and Splash and I guess Real Genius. That's a little later.
But I'm thinking like Porky's always plays, Animal House always plays, Meatball always plays.
Those are the movies you hear about and then you see a lot of times, but you never saw Night Shift. And I think probably because there's no nudity in it. There's very little. Yeah, it's not really. It's also not about young kids trying to,
It's about people in their 30s. Yeah.
right. So and it's not. I mean, like what he proposes, like you talk about it, where Chuck says, like, listen, we're going to take 10%. I'm going to invest it. I'm going to put it in a fund. Like, that's not really sexy for anybody. Like, in terms of this movie, kind of like carrying on to other people and it having longer legs than the other ones did.
Right. It's not raunchy enough.
Right. But there's a couple of things in here that really made me laugh in terms of, right now we're just kind of doing like what we kind of thought about, and we can get to quotes later. I kind of want to go into some of the character stuff with you. Just sure, yeah. So we talked about my biggest character thing. My biggest obstacle was I could not buy Shelley Long as a prostitute. Like I just couldn't buy it. And it's not, and I'm not saying it has anything to do with the performance. I think it has a lot to do with what I've seen her in as well, like from Cheers and True Beverly Hills. And I mentioned that. And I couldn't picture it. I couldn't imagine this.
No, I don't think she carries herself in a way that like that you would think a New York City, like a seedy New York City, not that she's seedy, but like in the seedy streets of New York, like she doesn't seem like the typical prostitute, and like she doesn't act like it, and she's too nice, too watered down, maybe like she like Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places. I buy it. Yeah, I buy that. I don't buy Shelley Long either, and that, like you said, could be because I've seen her in Cheers and stuff, but also I just don't think she carries herself in a way that seems prostitute-esque or movie prostitute-esque.
She had her hands off in one scene, like stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, like that. You know what I mean?
She goes, that's the one thing. It's so kind of out of play. Oh, it's so warm. Let me just take this. But she's not doing it. She's just doing it oblivious.
Well, you talk about Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places, which is a good comp because you do see Jamie Lee Curtis's apartment.
Yes,
it's like a better representation of a New York City apartment back then, where it's tight and
it's most you can afford. There's not a lot. There's stuff's everywhere.
I find it very hard to believe that
she's got basically
that Belinda can afford the same amount as Chuck can with the job that he's working, a state job. Like I find that,
and he was a financial advisor.
Oh yeah, I believe, and I think that's probably part of that read. Like even when Chuck helps them out, I can believe that. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm
now if they're moving up, right? Yeah,
they're buying. It's almost like Pretty Woman. Like when you meet Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, and her character is living with somebody else, and they're both like struggling for money, and it's like it's just because that the quote unquote pimp's job is to take a lot of that money from them. They take a large percentage.
So yeah,
I mean, like so they already talk about in this movie how they don't get a lot of the money that they earn. So then how are you affording this place? Like it's stuff like that. Yeah. I think that goes into it. But I don't think her cast as a prostitute is good. I don't think it's a good casting. I mean, again, she's probably hot. She's big. Cheers is out or coming?
No, Cheers isn't out yet.
But she's an up and comer.
She's an up and comer anyway.
Yeah, she's in it. I just couldn't. I had a real hard time buying it.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
But other than that, you like Henry Winkler as the straight guy, as the Richie Cunningham, the Chuck Lumley.
This is the start of him playing, like, the way I know Henry Winkler is, like, you always forget he's the Fog because everything, like, older Henry Winkler, quote unquote, always plays this type of character. He's always kind of the goofy guy. But, like, when you see him, when he looks the same as the Fonz, yeah, it's kind of weird and interesting to see.
So when the movie starts off and he opens up the drawer to show the dead
body, yeah.
I go, hey, this guy's dead, Mr. C. And I was like, okay, that's my only Fonzie joke. That's the only joke I'm making. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. It's against type. But like, did it really help him in his career? Do you really think like playing this role helped Henry Winkler?
Probably hurt him because that's all the kind of roles he got after this.
The Fonz is such a iconic television figure.
Sure, yeah.
Like he wasn't for those who don't know, the Fonz was not a regular.
It was supposed to be a guest star.
Yeah, be a guest star. And it was almost like in Family Matters when Urkel was on Family, and Urkel just like everybody loved Urkel, and then Jolie White was just like, that's it, he's gonna be part of the show, and it was just like screw the rest of the family. It was just it was the neighbor. That's what it was with Happy Days and the Fonz. Like the Fonz was so like everybody loved him, and it was just he was in every single. He's just such, and his jacket is in the Smithsonian. He's such an iconic television figure. So, like, and that's and to Winkler's credit, he's never shied away from it. He will always be known as the Fonz.
Well, so maybe in that case it helps him because maybe even though these are the only kind of roles he gets after that, maybe if he tried to stay as the cool guy, he would never have gotten anywhere because you would just see that cool guy as the Fonz. So by playing a meek Richie Cunningham type character, you paint him in a different light, and it's almost like I said, older Henry Winkler. I always forget or not always, like I know now, but when I was younger, I was like, wait, he's the Fonz, but he's this older guy. Like it's tough to see him in a lot of the roles he's at.
Well,
as Fonz.
The Night Shift comes out in 1982. He's like we said, he's still doing
Happy Days, yeah.
And his credits after that are he's in an episode of Joni Love Shots. He's in an episode of Laverne and Shirley in the Army. Yeah. Which is a cartoon. He does they do this like Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley Fonz Hour. He's in 8 episodes of that. Then he's on Sesame Street as the Fonz. Then he's in Happy Days. The Happy Days series ends. Then he's on a TV show called Pryor's Place, which doesn't do anything, but he's one episode. Like he doesn't like his
it takes him a while to come back.
Does not, yeah. So I don't necessarily think that
this helped or hurted.
Yeah, I don't think Night Shift did anything to get him away from that Fonz. Sure, the movie that helped him kind of be like, wait a minute, he's not the Fonz. He had to get older. But when he was in Scream and he played the principal, and it was like, hey, and like it was almost like enough time had passed and he was gray haired now.
Because you don't see him as the Fonz anymore.
Yeah. I think that was what he needed. And from there, it's just, he's in Waterboy, he's in TV shows, you just see him.
Yeah, he's great in Parks and Rec.
Yeah. So I think that, but I mean, like I said, it's not a knock. I'm sure he's made a lot of money off the Fonz, and that's great. But yeah, I don't think Night Shift really, I don't think it was strong enough to break him away from that.
Sure.
But we do enjoy him in this movie. We're saying like we like him as the okay,
because he's also a little like even though he's meek, he's also still underhandedly sarcastic.
Sure.
And put down. Can we just like not one day? I'd like to not check the apartment. And like he's like underhanded things like that that really work. Shut up.
Or like when he's in jail. And I mentioned,
oh yeah,
sure. And he's like,
kill myself right now.
He's like, you really want to? And he goes, that's great. You got me in jail, Peter Lorre's son. So like, he's got a nice line there. He's got his lines. A lot of his lines are low key, dry humor. But again, he's the straight guy here in this comedy.
Yes,
he's the foil for Michael Keaton's character Billy Blaze to just do whatever he needs to do. And if Keaton's not as good as he is in this film, then the whole thing's going to just fall apart because then, you know what I mean? Then he's not funny enough. And then you've got a straight guy who's not supposed to be the funny guy. He's supposed to have everything happen to him. You know, we talk about it all the time in comedies. You got to have one guy that's not just cracking wise, cracking jokes.
Yeah. He's got to be not funny at all or very dry humor compared to the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really just focused on these three. There's no, I mean, you get like none of the other prostitutes really, there's a couple here and there, but they don't really have enough scenes to be like, oh, that's a supporting character.
No, they just get more stuff to say. But yeah they don't really have they don't even really have names of their own.
The Charlotte character, his fiance is kind of in there, and she's not. And then her family becomes a character, and then all of a sudden, then it's his mother's there too, which I didn't realize was his mother until like in the car back from going to.
Oh, I realized it was her, but
yeah. But like, so there's really not a lot of. It's just the three of them, and
you get the pimps that come in.
Yeah, but they're not really like they come in. They take most of the movie to figure out what's happening, and then they're a threat for 5-10 minutes, and then it's over.
You know what I mean? Figure they would be. They can't be a threat for longer than that because these guys aren't,
right,
tough guys or pimps of their own. They're not like action stars.
What's the main plot here? What is this the character study? Is this just Chuck Lumley trying to break out of this crummy life that is?
Yeah, it's kind of like how Chuck got his groove back. That's basically the movie. It's the series. It starts with Blaze. And then, obviously, what's Shelley Long's character's name? Belinda. Blaze and Belinda come into his life and kind of shake things up and then present this situation that helps exacerbate him kind of getting the stones to stand up for himself and be a, for better, lack of better words, be a man. Stand up for himself.
Be a man!
Yeah. Stand up for himself, go have fun, live a little, and also just, not take crap from everybody, which is what he had been doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
but plot wise, yeah, that's really
It really is. But again, it's a comedy, and we don't try to hold you can't really hold the same kind of plot flame to this type of film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you really wanted to follow the plot, it would become a lot more of a dour movie.
But there are comedies out there that do have better plots and do have better character plots.
Sure.
And stuff like that. I just think this is not one of them. Butler, did you notice the cameos in this film? There's two. Well, there's two, and there's one that you would notice because the person he talks. But
I assume the person that talks is the pimp.
Stephen Wright. No. Oh, what do you mean the pimp?
One of the two guys beating everybody up. He's from the guy from Law and Order.
Well, Richard Belzer. I already said him.
Oh, you did list him? Okay, I didn't hear you say. Okay.
No, Stephen Wright, who delivers the food at the end when he tells him to clean.
Oh, yep.
But, no, did you notice in the frat boy scene?
I read about it, but I did not notice it.
So you can't if you don't know he's in there.
It's like a 2-second shot.
You wouldn't see him. Kevin Costner's in this film. He's behind him when he's in the conga line or whatever. He's dancing.
Yeah.
He's balancing the
beer bottle on.
Yeah, and Chuck calls for him and Billy drops it. He's right behind him. He's got the sweater wrapped around his waist. Now, I didn't notice the first time, but then when I went back and I see him, like, oh, it is him. But like, he is really young in this. And also one of the Bluebells, one of the girls, supposed to be the Girl Scouts, Shannon Doherty.
Yep,
she is in this as well, which I thought was interesting.
She's the one that attacks him first.
Right. Yeah. So a little trivia there.
I had never heard of a Bluebell before.
I wanted to look it up.
I was like, why are they just like Matilda?
They might. I don't know if they're real or not.
Okay. Because they say it with such matter of factly. Bluebells, like, so that's just
maybe
another name for Cap.
Oh, they are real. I think. No, those are flowers. I don't know. I don't know if they're real. They might just be because I couldn't say Girl Scouts or whatever. Maybe they are. I don't know. Maybe it was an 80s, 70s thing. You tell us at home. So the fraternity in the morgue also is the same fraternity, Delta Tau Chi. It's the same one from Animal House. Yeah, which I don't know if that is on purpose.
It's a crossover. It's a universe.
Or they just use the prop and they just put it on there.
Is it the same company? Did Animal House also, was that Warner Brothers as well?
I don't know. Probably. I would imagine.
So yeah, maybe props. Or maybe they were just like, hey, it's kind of like raunchy like Animal House.
Let's
match them to inspire by, yeah.
So did you also notice that Chuck is using the VisiCalc app? Or
I read the note, but clearly I'm way too young for that. I was like,
it's obviously some kind of, it's a program that supposedly was responsible for the PC boom, but probably helped because everyone wanted it and stuff like that. But he's like, beep, 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 putting down the buttons. I'm like, oof, that's old.
I was kind of impressed that it can calculate all that. I was like, well, that's a pretty fancy computer for 1981, probably when they were filming it.
Did you read the note that Grazer got the idea for this film? How he got the idea to do this movie?
Because someone told him basically they did it.
There was a news story about there was a prostitution ring run out of the city morgue, and I'm like, well, that's pretty much the plot. So he just kind of ripped it.
Anyway, that's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous.
So the other note I have, a couple of notes I have in terms of facts, is that we talked about how Winkler was still playing the Fonz while he was doing this. So he worked on this film. It shot in New York City for the exteriors. They shifted to California and did the interior stuff in California. But when he worked on the film in New York during his holiday hiatus from Happy Days. So he went there and shot while they were on break, which is probably like in December. Obviously, it's cold. You can tell it's cold.
Yes. He looks cold.
Right. So then when he came back and they shifted to California, he would work on this film Monday through Wednesday and then do Happy Days Thursday and Friday. So it was just like he was doing both movies, the movie and the show at the same time.
Hey, he got weekends off though, which is something that I don't think a lot of actors get nowadays. Credit to that.
I don't know what the TV schedule was. I think they get the 9 to 5 or something.
Yeah, but I'm saying if he did a movie, they would be like, well, then your Saturday at Sunday, then yeah,
better. No, maybe they're just trying to squeeze everything in there.
Right. Yeah.
And I also, did you read the note about how he didn't get along with Shelley Long? Did you read that?
No. Apparently, no one really gets along with Shelley Long.
No. Yeah, I guess she wouldn't. She would purposely. He says she would purposely stand in the frame wrong so that she'd be taller than him because she's always taller than him. They always wanted to make it look like they were similar Adam Cruz thing because he's smaller than her, but like she would always just not listen and just to kind of, I guess, be annoying. And I don't know why you would just kind of like do that. And what's that going to do to the movie?
That's why they didn't get along with her in Cheers. One thing I thought was interesting with the height thing is when Henry Winkler goes in, he's like 5'6" or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they have Michael Keaton come in and he hits the 6 foot mark. I'm like, bullshit.
He's not 6 foot?
That man is 5'6" as well.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You looked it up?
I know he's a short man.
You're sure? You're positive?
I am 80% sure that Michael Keaton is not very tall. And by not very tall, I mean around the same height as me, because I'm also not very tall. So respect Michael Keaton.
Whoa.
They say he's 5'9", but that's...
He doesn't even believe it when it says on the line.
Because they always fake that. If it says 5'9" on there, you like take away 3, and then here, 5'8.5", 5'7". It changes depending on like what site. So yes, I mean I get it. I wouldn't want to be on the... I'd be like, hey, can I, especially for my first film, can I not be my actual height on the thing?
Did you like the Rolodex on the ceiling of the car that he gets? That car that's...
The whole car was ridiculous.
Well, that car is a 1981 Stutz 4 Port, and there was only 50 ever made. So I guess it's a pretty big car. So like a pretty rare car.
It looks like a tank.
Oh no, it didn't look.
It was like an uglier Buick.
But he has the Rolodex on the ceiling. I'm like, how are you going to read that and drive? And
yeah, you know about distracted drivers nowadays.
It looks cool, I guess. The club at the end of the movie that they kind of all meet at this because Belinda's going to work there and Blaze already works there and Chuck's going there to get Belinda. Like that, the membership fee was $8,000.
Oh, I have all that. And yeah.
So the membership fee for the club back in 1982 was $8,000, but in 2024,
I can't find it. Go ahead.
It's $25,600.
That's ridiculous. Oh, and his car costs, like nowadays money, his car costs $250,000.
His car that he's driving?
The car that he's driving, I didn't imagine.
They were made? That makes sense.
Yeah. $250,000 car.
Imagine that.
In today's money.
I mean, I don't want to break down everything in the film because I think it's unfair to kind of go at the plot a little bit.
Oh, it's a comedy.
Just because like the whole, like when Chuck is upset, he's stressed out about everything. I'm like, it was your idea. Like, why are you stressed?
I had that.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this in older films like this, but the fathers are always jerks in these movies.
Oh, yeah.
Always. Like,
Well, the fathers were jerks back in the day.
Yeah.
And now they're morons. It's like, that's like a whole Hollywood trope is like the dumb dad now. And back then it was kind of like the bad dad.
Yeah.
Which we kind of just talked about when we did our Super 8 episode as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Harkens back to that like 80s dad.
Yeah. This film is kind of in its own little genre. It's actually in the little 2 genres of comedy. So there were a couple other films that came out around the same time or later on with like The Nice Guys Becoming Pimps with like Risky Business and Dr. Detroit. Risky Business with Tom Cruise. Dr. Detroit is with Dan Aykroyd. You've seen Risky, but you have not seen Dr.
I had never heard of it until I read the note. Yeah.
The poster's like him. It was his like decked out like a pimp, I think. But also there's another genre that's kind of like, and I wanted to ask you if you could remember any of these, is like that hooker with a heart of gold kind of thing, with a character like obviously Pretty Woman. Right, obviously, where like the prostitute, the hooker, who was like, she needs to do this. She doesn't want to do this. She's going to get rescued, if you will. Like Risky Business has that a little bit.
Jamie Lee Curtis and Trading Places. Yeah. Although she doesn't really want to get rescued, she just kind of gets.
But that's what I'm saying. Like there's always that. There was like a span of like 5 to 10 years where there was always that character in these films, and I don't know if it's because they saw it at Night Shift or they saw it in another film. Like, then they kind of got into.
I think if I saw it another, and it just kind of worked.
I just thought that was interesting. Like, that's just kind of like that character was around.
I feel like it fits kind of like a male fantasy of being like a woman that needs to be saved, but also a woman that knows her way, around in bed. So it's like you save her, but this one's nice.
You saved me,
but she knows that she's doing.
You saved me.
Did you think? When the movie gets serious for a minute at the end of Christmas Eve, and like Blaze goes on about his dad being a piece of crap, and then we get Chuck bringing them to the graveyard to show off his dad's better headstone. Did that seem like out of place to you? Like all of a sudden, it's like, why are we getting all sappy and sentimental and sad right now?
It kind of I think it still goes along with his character in terms of like he's a dork, he's a nerd. Like of course I honestly thought he was showing them his own plot.
That's what I thought at first too.
My escape planning in order.
Got it all right here. Me and Charlotte buried together.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess because he's like, well, of course I love my dad. So you have that. And then that's supposed to endear him to Belinda. a little bit. So
He's already endeared.
yeah,
to Limbe.
it was a little, it's fine.
I get talking about his dad more because the mother kind of hints that she browbeat his dad into becoming a loser too and not following his passions.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of out of left field. And Blaze's like monologue is like, I guess that's good for Keaton because it shows off some chops. But
yeah,
do I need to know more about Blaze? Because he turns out to just be the same cowboy, caveman, weird monkey boy at the end.
Well, but he also then he has that come to Jesus moment where he's just like, I haven't done anything. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I haven't done any as I say. So he kind of, I kind of want to know what happens after. Like they just kind of like go off, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the plan here? Like I know
Chuck's got his old jobs.
Still working at the morgue. Right?
It's a silly job.
So like, what's the deal here? What are we doing?
So my guess is Chuck gets the balls to say, your son can't, or your nephew can't work here. I'm getting my day shift back. I do all the work, kind of standing up for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Shelley
they
Long move in together.
They never say what happens to their money. They never say if they confiscate it or anything like that. They never talk about they just say like, oh, we want this to go away. We're going to put it hush hush. Okay, but they take the money they earn. But also, he was stuffing money in coffee cans. Where are these? Where are those?
They're still in his apartment. How are they taking his money's in cash?
So like, where is the line where he's just like, don't worry, guys, I've got over $50,000 in coffee cans.
You're right, because every other comedy would end like that.
Yeah,
every comedy would end with that like Deus Ex Machina, but it's okay. Which the movie we're doing next week kind of ends with that as well. That kind of like, but it's all right because we're rich all of a sudden. Woo! So yeah, I agree. It should have ended with that because it ends very weird with like just the pan out to the city.
Yeah, and then you have is that what Friends Are For plays at the end credits?
It plays, yeah.
So obviously, if you are big fans of That's What Friends Are For good times and bad. Okay, that and Dionne Warwick and all that, you're a fan of that. That's actually not an original. That song is actually in this movie first, a Burt Bacharach song sung by Rod Stewart. Like, so that's the first incantation of that song, but obviously it does not become wildly successful until a couple years later.
When it's playing the credits, before I read that note, I was like, I know this song.
Yeah.
This sounds weird, but I think I know this song somehow.
I knew it was that song, and then I'm like, and then I hear it, and I'm like, is this the first time this song's been around? And then I was like, look this up.
Cover, yeah.
I looked it up while I was watching the movie. I was like, oh, sure enough, yeah.
I mean, it's clearly Rod Stewart singing it because he's got a very distinct voice, but yeah.
Totally. The other note I have is when after they break up, Belinda and Chuck, after they get together, and they spend the night together, and then like he goes back and he's like, I don't know, I don't think she's coming in, and then she comes in, and then if I notice like hooker's hook, Chuck, what are you gonna do here?
I have the same note.
But like, and it's funny because now I didn't think that the barrier for Chuck and maybe even for Belinda was communication. But now we've got this, he can't say I love you. Like he can't say these words. And I don't really like, that's not something that was from the Charlotte relationship where I don't speak. It was just that Charlotte was a hypochondriac and Charlotte was just scared and timid and clearly didn't love him and was just like, like that kind of thing. That was the issue and the obstacle with them. Not that Chuck couldn't be open. And then all of a sudden now the issue is that Chuck can't communicate and can't be open with Belinda. And I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I didn't. The breakup thing just kind of has to happen for plot purposes and relationship purposes.
Because like third act, we need to have something that kind of like puts a wrench in the works. Yeah.
Because she's already going out there hooking. So it's like, and like probably earlier that day before they hook up. And it's like, it didn't bother him then. And all of a sudden it bothers him the next day. But it's like, why would you assume that it's all of a sudden going to stop like that? Like, it's like, that's a cliche. Like, and if you put me on the spot, I'm not going to be able to name the movies where that happens. But that's a cliche that happens in TV and movies where somebody dates like a stripper or a prostitute, where it's like, well, you're done then, right? And it's like, well, no. In fact, it was like, I think that was on... there's an episode of New Girl, because I'm rewatching New Girl, where that actually happens to one of the characters. And it's just like, that's such a cliche, but at least in those, you kind of get the sense beforehand that it bothers them, and they talk about it a little. And this, it just comes out of left field, and all of a sudden Chuck's like, yeah, no. It's like, you just did it with her. It's fine.
Janet Maslin, New York Times Butler, Dean Night Shift, quote, a halfway funny movie, one that gets loads of good gags, that's got loads of good gags in its first half and nothing but trouble in its second.
No, I would say it's pretty consistently okay throughout.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I don't think the first 30 minutes are amazing compared to the rest. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
Siskel from the Chicago.
We're not going Ebert, we're going Siskel.
No,
All right.
on Siskel. This is my only other one. Hailed Keaton's superb comic performance. That's a quote. Writing that quote, based on this one role, I would now pay to see Keaton in just about anything except Night Shift.
Oh, I'm interested with like I don't know if Siskel and Ebert ever talked about like previews, but like what Siskel would have thought about Keaton becoming Batman then.
Wait,
5 years later, yeah.
I'm sure he loved it.
I'll see him in anything. He's gonna be Batman. No.
Right, well, Keaton has at this point when he's Batman, he's a solid A-list actor.
Yeah, but everybody was against him being Batman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember that too. I don't remember that.
I mean, clearly I was too, but I know of it.
Mike, no, not that. Come on, Butler. Go on, Field. You know the pattern we do here. Would you recommend this to people? Or who would you recommend this to?
People that like movies, people that like if you like Michael Keaton. Like if someone's like on a Michael Keaton binge, like someone's all of a sudden like, I just rediscovered, I didn't know Michael Keaton did all these comedies. Like now that he's in Beetlejuice 2, I'm sure people are discovering him for the first time, like newer audiences. And I'm like, well, if you like this, there's this, and this. And maybe I'll throw Night Shift in there to be like his first movie's Night Shift.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would recommend this over like Gung Ho or Mr. Mom or Multiplicity. Like obviously Beetlejuice, like other comedies.
Heat moments is in Gung Ho when the glass isn't there. And he's like, no glass. Like, well, it's right there. Creepy. The guy puts his hand through. Never mind. Sorry. If you've seen Gung Ho, you know what I'm talking about.
So yeah, I think I'd recommend them for that. I think it's interesting to see like young Henry Winkler play the doofy guy, but like we said, there's not a lot of laugh out loud moments.
True.
I would recommend this to people that like film though. I think, like I said, it's really interesting to see Ron Howard's first film. So film wise, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, historically, I guess for cinephiles. But also, like I said, seeing New York as this, like, I think it does a good job of the outside shots of like showing seedy Times Square and stuff like that. And that's always interesting to watch. And the movie moves pretty quick.
But you say cinephiles like it's a swear word.
I didn't mean to say it like it was swear word. Not that time.
Well, we talk about all the time how New York is a character. Like we like when New York's a character.
Right. Yeah.
It's definitely a character here just because that's the way New York was in the 80s. And this movie, I think, with this $8.1 million budget, feels like an indie. Feels, even though it's a studio film, it's shot and feels like an independent.
Yeah, very few inside like interior sets.
Yeah,
a lot of outside shots. So I think that's cool. But the average person, I don't know if I'd recommend this to the average viewer. Just anybody looking for a comedy, I would be like, or 80s comedy, I would recommend a bunch of others before this.
If you liked my movie, Save the Forest, then you might like Night Shift, because when we shot Save the Forest, we shot it purposely like an 80s film. So it's a lot of wide shots. It's a lot of, set shots. It's a lot of just comedy in the scene. It's a little bit of a raunchy comedy. So it was very much from the 80s, and that probably was also its downfall, but it was like, that's the kind of film it was. So when I watched Night Shift, I'm like, this is obviously where this is the same sensibility as the movie I did way back when. But I don't think it's like we said before, it's not the top. It's not the, no, I want to say it's not the best. It's not the one that everybody talks about the most, right? It's not in that kind of collection, which we talked about earlier in the show. So I think you're right. I think it's just, it's kind of like in the middle of the pack, and I think that's probably why it's forgotten. I know you didn't get into that yet, but like
you didn't ask the question, but yes,
I would have got to ask the question. Like, why is it forgotten?
Because it's a middle of the pack 80s.
Take my line.
But yeah, I think that it's just not terrible. It's not great to those heights. I mean, for Ron Howard's freshman film and for Michael Keaton's freshman debut as they're both did TV movies before this, but this is their first studio film.
Yeah.
It's a very commendable effort. Like, it's really good for that. But like in terms of all the other comedies that came out and raunchy comedies like that came out in the 80s, it's just not good enough to stand up to them. And I think that that's why it got forgotten. And also the fact that you see all the other ones play on TV and this one just never did.
Yeah, I think that's also too, like, that's probably the biggest thing. It wasn't something that's been repeatable and on reruns and constantly. And honestly, maybe that was a concerted effort on Warner Brothers' part because nobody wants to see the Fonz like this kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But again, the Fonz is such an iconic role that maybe it overshadowed Henry Winkler in this film, and you just never heard from it again. And Ron Howard goes on to make like Splash is infinitely better than Night Shift. And he just goes on to make all these great films, and that it's just kind of like Night Shift's just like, okay, you know, it's almost like it's when you're first starting out, you don't want your first film to be the best thing you do. You want to be able to improve upon it. And I think Night Shift is a solid film, and it's funny, but it's not the best that everybody in that show has in that movie has done. So everybody in that movie has gone on to do better things, but it was a good, like, almost like a starting point. And I think that people just don't want to go back to that because they don't want to see something less than, because they've seen something that's just great and everything else.
Right.
You know, but you should go back to that because this is where they learned a lot of their stuff. This is where they harnessed their craft. And this is where Ron Howard, you know, cut his teeth as a director on a studio film and working with notes and working with executives. And this is how Michael Keaton, like, you know, broke out. And like, I'm not saying that this happened, but like, let's say Michael Keaton's an actor, doesn't know that if his abilities are going to play well on screen, then he does this film. And he's, oh my God, everyone loves him. And he's like, oh my God, I'm a star. I can do this. I can do this now. Like that's the kind of thing you know, you kind of want to pay homage to that when you watch these films. And maybe that's more of a cinephile thing. Like Mike said, it's more somebody who loves film and filmmaking that you kind of get into that. The average casual viewer, probably not. And that's probably why you don't ever hear from this film for people. But we say go back to it. We watched it on Max. Where did we see it? No, we did not watch it on Max. We watched it in a way that you cannot watch it. So shame on Butler.
Speaking about watching in ways you cannot watch it, you talk about The Forest an awful lot, and it is no longer available to get that disc on Netflix because they no longer do disc rentals.
No, I own it.
You need to put The Forest, save The Forest out there for the people.
No,
you can't keep referencing it on the podcast.
You want to talk about problematic? That is the actual original copy is somewhere in this house somewhere. I think it's in the room over there.
I'm on
it's the beta version. Yeah, no, you can't. So it reverted back to me. Echelon Entertainment, who doesn't exist anymore, had it for like 7 years, and then they reverted back to me. So I'm the sole owner of that. So no, I actually, if I put that back out, Mike, I'd have to redo the music, because even though I got permission for the music in there, and I've got the signed copies, right? When I put it up, it gets disputed, and it's just like, I've got the signed copy. You're like,
but you got to figure out where it is. Yeah.
So I would have to rescore everything, and quite honestly, I don't even think anybody wants to go back to it except me. I guess I'm the only one that is nostalgic for that film. But yeah, no, sorry. I mean, I'll let you watch it, but it's awful. It's not awful. It's not awful. I'm just joking. Mike, where can they find us?
Let me put this back. You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcast. You're listening to us, watching us and listening to us. Why don't you, wherever you're at, drop a like, a subscribe, a comment. Let us know what you think of Night Shift, or better yet, what's your favorite raunchy 80s comedy film? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to support our show, we're on Patreon. If you sign up and support us on any of the tiers, you get stuff like early access to episodes. You get stickers every month. You get discount codes to our merch store, which we do have a merch store. You get exclusive episodes. We have our lead up series where we've done endless amounts of movies leading up to big new releases, from their originals all the way up to these sequels. We do now showings where we do newer movies. Those are available everywhere. But we've got a ton of exclusive stuff on our Patreon, including Discord access, where you can talk to us on Discord about what you love about movies, and we'll wax poetic on movies, mostly Field. Yeah,
I love the we stuff. Who's like engage with us on social, and because he doesn't engage, I'm the one that's answering our questions. So when you see Forgotten Cinema, it's me. He never does. You never are on there. So like, yeah. So
I think I answered one thing.
Yeah. So you know, when you answer, when I go, you need to answer that question. It's for you. Like, that's when I tell him. So when you're engaging with this guy right here, not that guy. Unreal.
I'm busy editing all the content that you're
he's not busy editing. He's editing, but he's anti-social media because he's all over everything else.
Anti-social media.
Anti-Forgotten Cinema social media. Anyway, we're staying in the 80s next week. We were watching the action, kind of comedy, but more action, movie FX, starring Brian Dennehy and Brian Brown. You never saw it?
Not until we watched it for this.
And there was a sequel. I was going to watch the sequel and I forgot.
I still want to watch the sequel.
I will. Good and interesting. Maybe Butler kind of like this movie. All right, that's going to be next week. As you can tell, we've doubled up today this week. Anyways, that's FX next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema. That's my squeaky chair.
I'm serious about the pimps thing. We should become pimps. I think we can make a lot of money.
I'm not doing that.